Talk about a crazy game. Impressive victory for Hawaii. Week 0 against Stanford. You know, from there's a little part of me in the beginning, and probably for most people watching, that felt that this game was going to get out of hand early, and the Rainbow Warriors came back and made it competitive and overcame some injuries and some circumstances, and got the dub to start the season. I know people were believing that Andrew Luck and his coach, Frank Reich, were going to have Stanford back to the old ways, and for a part they were, physical play. They were able to run the ball pretty well throughout for the most part. Passing the ball, they could not make a completion to save their life. They looked abysmal throwing the ball. I would say that the score isn't really indicative of how it really went about it. Stanford drove downfield, kicked a field goal, okay. First possession for Hawaii. The returner fair catches the ball, lets it bounce. Before doing so, they get the ball at the 1 yard line, 1 or 2 yard line. And Michael Alejado's first snap takes a sack, fumbles, scoop and score. 10 points easy. That Stanford's up. Now it's looking like it could get ugly. They have to figure out what's going on. But Michael Alejado, all the hype around him turns out to be quite true. He finds a way to drive it downfield, get a touchdown. Now it's 10-7. It's looking a little bit more manageable. When I say Stanford just did not look like their old selves, they just could not get anything going. They're physical and found a way to edge their way to some first downs, but for the most part, they still have plenty of improvement to go on. Hawaii was able to get a pair of touchdowns before half, took the lead 14-13. Early on in the third quarter, on the Hawaii possession, Michael Alejado takes a hip drop tackle, gets roughed up on the play, has to go out for the remainder of the drive. The remainder of the drive ends up being a wash, punt the ball away. From there, Stanford gets a missed possession. Michael Alejado, who many people thought wasn't gonna come back into the game, comes back into the game immediately with a noticeable limp. He finds a way to drive them down. They score a field goal. Now they're up 17-13. Stanford finds a way to score. They take the lead 2017. Hawaii can only get so much going with Alejado. He's sort of overthrowing passes. He still has a noticeable limp. He's fighting through it. They get a missed possession. Stanford gets the ball, and it looks like they're driving down a score, and they get a huge interception going the other way. From there, they're able to kick a field goal, tie the game up. Stanford has another missed possession, and it's looking like this game's going to OT. Michael Alejado is able to, engineer an efficient drive. He goes, 50 yards downfield. They get into field goal range, and Japanese transfer kicker Matsuzama, he's able to get a chip shot in. Hawaii wins 23-20. They cover the spread. Just an impressive win. Alejado looks fantastic, fighting through an injury and really keeping his team in the game. Everything I was hoping Hawaii was going to be going into the season so far. Huge impressive win against Stanford. I know they're not the Stanford that they were, but they're still a Power 4 team. Still get blue chippers in. And just a great win for Timmy Chang to start the season. Great, great win for the Rainbow Warriors. I think this shows that they can stay in games and, stick it out, and I wouldn't count them out the rest of the way. I believe they're going to have some more impressive wins along the season. What better way to get your first win at home, week 0, all eyes on you, fighting through some adversity. Just an impressive win for Hawaii to start the season.